Hi, Denver Startup Week. I'm Eric Matisik, President and CEO of Highwing and co-founder of Denver Startup Week. Denver Startup Week is the largest free entrepreneurial event in the world, and it's only possible thanks to the support of our awesome sponsors. We have nearly 40 sponsor companies who contribute to make DSW a reality. Let's show our love for these companies today and all week long. Thanks to our title sponsors, the Downtown Denver Partnership, JP Morgan Chase, Prologis, and Zero, and our track sponsors who help make the great content you're hearing today possible. Battery 621 and Public Works, Capital One Cafe, Colorado Lending Source, Friday Health, Quizlet, Exactly, Zayo, and Zestful. Our headline and event sponsors are bringing you inspiration from around the country. Thank you to Wix, Kinzon, MAPR Agency, Obsidian HR, Kickstart Fund, Promontory Mortgage, Molson Coors, and Comcast. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors listed on the screen. Thank you for your support of Denver Startup Week. Now, let's get started.
The Public Works is a Denver, Colorado-based design, fabrication, and multimedia marketing firm that allows your company to craft an authentic presence to your target audience. For the past 15 years, the Public Works media team has been telling stories with words, pictures, and films. Our unique approach to brand storytelling allows us to get strong reactions and results from our content. We work in experienced and nimble teams with our crew of producers, directors, and cinematographers that all have firsthand experience and international presence. We are fortunate to have amazing clients that allow us to get wherever we need to go with the right tools for the highest production value. Lots of people can take a pretty picture. Just look at Instagram. While we believe our images speak for themselves, what really sets us apart is our decades of experience, our network, and our ability to make shit happen when it counts. We love bringing unexpected partners together to create added value for everyone. And most of all, we love when we finish a job confident that we've not only executed, but elevated the end product, and we know that everyone involved enjoyed the process. Our company was founded on the idea that life is about learning and teaching through every experience. We apply a strict discipline of work hard, play hard, and make great fucking work. We amplify awesome. We surround ourselves with the best and feed off of infectious innovation, ideas, collaboration, and building long-term friendships and partnerships. Contact us anytime for a meeting at our office, golf course, or on the chairlift.
Hello, hi, my name is Ari Melenciano, and I'm excited to be presenting at Denver Startup Week to talk about a course that I created based off of the archival footage and documentation, based off of the archival work of the Vitra Design Museum and their work on designing club culture. So I converted their archive into a course to be taught at New York University in the Interactive Telecommunications graduate program called Designing Club Culture by the same name. And it's an exploration in sound, visual, and countercultural culture and experiments in audiovisuality, space, and psychology. And so I'm just going to talk about the research that I present in the course and what we do, what the students are expected to do in the course. So as I mentioned, this course is based off of the work by the Vitra Design Museum, Night Fever Designing Club Culture, which is a really amazing collection of research and archival footage on club culture from the 60s to today. And so with the pedagogy, I'll go into how I've designed the structure so that students can learn a variety of different skills and engage in a variety of different branches of thought to create and explore what club culture might mean to them. So first, I generally break up the weeks. It's a 7-week course for right now. It's generally a half a semester course And so for each course, we discuss different cultures, from social culture, visual culture, sound culture, audio visuality, design of space. And then the last 2 weeks are for prepping the performance and then actually having a performance. So I start off the course by asking, what is our relationship to music, understanding where the students are coming from, what sort of relationships exist between music and culture. So them being able to bring in their own cultural identities and ways that they find relationships between music and culture. What do they currently know about club cultures? What is counterculture, since that's a central theme within the course? And what sort of counterculture movements exist today? So us being able to grab this theoretical understanding and research that we're going to engage in, and then being able to apply it into our real life and understand, that this countercultural movement is not something that's historical only, but it's something that exists every day and is always present in our lives. And so I start the course again with social culture. And so I begin in the 16th century, starting with the talking drum. For me, it's really important to make sure that the pedagogy of designing club culture is rooted in the inventions developed out of Africa and the antique Africa, starting with the talking drum, because this culture is a direct stem from different African drum pattern music. It's a direct stem of African innovation from a long lineage of Black music genres. And so starting off with the talking drum and then going into blues music, and I'm going to move through these slides very quickly, so it's going to be a short presentation. But moving then into, in the time of enslavement, where blues music was used as a way to move through this time, this really horrid and laborious and really difficult time, doing things like spirituals and chants and hollers to uplift the souls as much as possible. Then the development of minstrel shows, this being one of the prolific forms of entertainment. And I also pair these movement of cultural, political, racial, all of these artifacts, identities, histories with the development of technology and sound. And so around this time, also we're having the first synthesizer being developed in Webster Hall, which is considered the first modern nightclub is being developed. Winston Marsalis is discussing how American music comes directly from Congo Square. So again, rooting this course very much in Black studies and racial studies. And so Congo Square being one of the most prolific spaces in an early development of jazz music, which was then used as a sort of central port between a bunch of different cultural groups, sounds that were coming out of Congo Square going to different places like Mexico and the Caribbean, and all of these creating an influence with their music. And then again, pairing it with technology and the development, like the first amplifiers. So now we're finally able to hear sounds that are coming out of digital machines, birth of the electronic age, first synesthetic instrument combining music and color. And so moving quickly, Prohibition, jazz being developed, World War II, Motown, first actual synthesizer, programmable synthesizer, RCA, Vietnam ends, we have all these anti-war protests, MLK, Woodstock being one of the true utopic festivals and thinking about sound, Black power development, and also LGBTQ+. First drum machine, Mellotron, Moog synthesizer coming out, Stevie Wonder making Moog what it was and as prolific as what it was. We have Moog synthesizer also used in Donna Summer, a huge disco icon, nightclubs, the development of nightclubs finally, the reason why nightclubs were able to take off, thinking of urban decay, cheap rent, industrialization. Then we move into visual culture, so understanding the elements of design and typography, understanding the psychology of colors and how people were using light to control and create emotions within spaces. So blue being calming, red being arousing, yellow, and also going into the psychology of different hues. So yellow being something that's confident or cheerful. Then going into visualizing the music, so how different designers would think of how they could translate the sounds that people would be hearing inside of the clubs into posters. But starting off with membership cards, club culture, was dominantly a thing of using membership cards so that people could get access to the space and the way that the branding that went to the membership cards. Also thinking about fashion and body decor within these spaces. Nightclubs were basically a theater where everyone could come and put on this whole identity. So studying the ways that people put on their own identities within these nightclubs, Grace Jones and Keith Haring, in Greystone again, back to the flyers and posters, so graphic design and studying the illustrations from whether it's Italian collectives like shown here, or Victor Moscoso with these Art Nouveau psychedelic sort of illustrations, to also album covers, Parliament, seeing Kikiyan, and studying how people were translating the music into visuals, and also going into modern days, so the things that we can do with technology. A lot of these visuals were done with, pretty archival practices and tactics. And so thinking about how we can use technology to advance this and looking at other examples by Boising. And so then going into sound culture. And so we would study sound, music innovators and innovations, from rent parties to David Mabuso to Larry Hurd. So these rent parties, which were one of the earliest social gatherings that cost, and there was a curation of people that could enter rent parties in Harlem, being because landlords of Black communities were very exploitive and charged very high rents. And so the community would come together and host these rent parties where they would charge a little bit of money, and that money would then be used to pay rent. And so people, and also going to Disco Sucks, so this attempt to demolish disco, which was an incredibly racist act, but it was an attempt to destroy a genre of music that was threatening the dominant rock and roll culture. Then we go with Larry Levan, a prolific DJ, and Richard Long, who really gave Larry the spotlight. Going into music machines that defined an era, so Roland TR-909 and 808, and how these changed the way that people were composing music to the sounds from pre-disco to techno. Of course, we have Grace Jones, and then also Kraftwerk. And then I would go into ways to craft electronic music, so sampling, sequencing, MIDI, and then also going into designing sound, so ADSR, attack decay, sustained release, and a whole bunch of other tactics that you could do when you're designing sound. And then we would go into designing of spaces. And so this was the study of architecture. So how designers were creating these spaces to create these sort of utopic environments, which were very much of what nightclubs were. And understanding that discotecture is a continuous performance and collection of assemblages that render visible the construction of bodies, technologies, media, and environmental ideas. So these spaces were very much a place of theater, of participatory theater, of exploration, of experimentation, and how the design of the space really cultivated those sorts of sentiments. And so studying different collectives like the Italian radical design, super design, Italy's radical design architects, to Fun Palace. And these are designs, some of them existed, some of them were never created, but being able to understand what the idea was behind this with Cedric Price, the Electric Circus in New York, Space Electronic in Florence, Italy in 1909, Flashback 73, The Drug in Montreal 64, of course Studio 54 in New York City, and also Palladium in New York City. And then we would finally, after all of that research, students would prepare for their performance, and we actually presented. This was from last year. We presented at Culture Hub in New York City at Lori's. And so the students, they created their own temporary clubs, and anyone was able to come in and enjoy themselves and experience it. And so they live composed music, they created visuals to accompany their music, they created rules for their space, and instructions on how to engage with their space. And, really just did a really fun and amazing job with thinking of how to create and cultivate the sentiments that they desire to. And so now in this course being taught in a remote era during quarantine, I've introduced webVR. So students will engage with webVR and create these virtual environments where people can enter and explore their aesthetic, both visually and sonically, and move through these spaces. And they can create these virtual environments that we would have never, creating environments that we would have never been able to have made in the real world, but through what VR, we're able to design these, really exciting spaces. And so that's what I've done for the Denver Startup Week. I've created a club at my URL, thedisco.club. And so you can enter the space and explore and listen to music and navigate and have fun. So thank you for having me, and hopefully you all enjoy the space.